In this video, I'm at Moosehead Lake Campground, and this is a Federal Forest Service campground that is located in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, not really near anything except the Michigan-Wisconsin border. It was quite a drive on the 2 tracks and some back roads to get to this campground, but it was absolutely worth it. This is by far one of my favorite campgrounds that I've stayed at in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and it's definitely a recommended stay if you're looking to get off the beaten path and away from people. The camping fee here is only $13 a night, and there was only one other set of campers here, and this is where they stayed at, and I'm way down on the opposite end of the campground. There are 8 campsites available here at this small campground, one little outhouse, and there was actually incredibly running water. I didn't expect that. I expected for something like this to have just a hand pump, but here we have the water set up, and you just push a button. It took it a second, but after I pushed the button for a couple seconds, water did actually come out of the spigot. It's pretty neat. See, it takes it a second, and then suddenly we get some water flowing. Makes me think that probably no one's used it in a while, but eventually water comes out, and you could fill your water bottle. It's definitely drinkable water, so that was pretty awesome. I definitely didn't expect that. I'm going to assume that there's not any bear issues here. I definitely didn't have any come up to the campground while I was here. And the reason I assume that is because there's just a couple garbage cans sitting around here for your garbage. It is definitely not anything that was a bear-proof garbage can. You can see here as I go through the campground that the sites definitely are not huge. They're big enough for a pop-up camper or small trailer. Maybe if you're lucky you can squeeze a medium-sized trailer in here. I myself was staying in a tent, and for one night that it got really cold and rained, I actually just slept in the back of my vehicle. So this is my campsite here. I'm staying at campsite number 6. You can see my tent looks pretty nice out there in the back. Plenty of space. Really nice picnic table. I've got a little bit of a view of the lake, so when people are fishing down there, I can see them if they're right in that little space. And you have a small fire ring at each one of the campsites. I'm going to jump forward here to campsite number 7, which is probably one of the bigger ones with a nice grassy spot there. And then campsite number 8 at the very end of the loop here. From there, after campsite number 8, the campground road just goes right back to the main road that heads down to the boat launch. And we're going to go take a look at the boat launch next because I'm eager to get my kayak in the water. So here at the boat launch, there's not a ton of space for parking several boat trailers or anything like that, but there is plenty of space to put your boat in. Now, when I say put your boat in, I'm talking about a small fishing boat. You're not going to back anything huge down in here. Definitely don't want to bring jet skis. It's not that kind of lake. This is a muskie fishing lake, and there are plenty of them out here. But getting a muskie hooked up and landed was a totally different story. I spent hours out here fishing, and I had one hooked on at one point, but it got loose, and I had a few other follows, but was never actually able to land a muskie out here on this lake.
Well, here's my camp for the night. I'm keeping a very small fire going because everything around here is just dried up pine. Yep, there's my car. You've seen that. So I'm having this freeze-dried Mountain House beef stroganoff with noodles meal. I've had it for probably 10 years, but stuff never goes bad. I've got my solar battery charger here. A little lantern, but I haven't kicked it on yet. There's my pot for cooking. There's my garbage bag right down there underneath that I'm going to throw in the car so bears don't get it. My kayak and some other stuff over there is all padlocked to the trees, so that's not going to come up missing. And there's my tent. So yeah, I'm just going to kick back, keep the fire going a little bit, look out over the lake, I guess, the best I can. Not a great view, but you can tell it's there. Had one muskie on earlier. That was super exciting, and got it right up through the edge of the boat. It came up towards the surface, and it got off, or it spit the lure. I'm not sure which one. Maybe it was never hooked. because it sure acted like it just opened its mouth and let go. But either way, it's cooling down and I want to get some food in me because I am hungry.
After I had my morning coffee, I packed up my stuff and headed back down to the water. It was a really nice, calm day, and I wanted to get out and try some more fishing. Now, Moosehead Lake doesn't only have muskie in it, it also has some northern pike, bass, crappie, and bluegill, but I was really only going after the muskie. I've never caught a muskie in my kayak before, and I thought that would be super awesome. Right now, however, I paddled my way over to Wisconsin, and I'm on the Little Presque Isle side of the lake. So there's actually a channel right here that divides the two lakes, and the Wisconsin side is Little Presque Isle Lake, and the Michigan side is Moosehead Lake. It was a really unique situation, and just to play it safe, I bought a fishing license for both Wisconsin and Michigan. I didn't want to get caught out here on the wrong side of the border and not have my license on me. You can see I'm up here in the fall. This is actually like mid-September-ish, and some of the leaves are already starting to change up here. There is one other person out here fishing, and I saw them reel in what looked like a really small northern pike. Otherwise, nobody was catching anything out here. So the fact that I had a muskie hooked up made me feel pretty fortunate. Down there at the bottom of the screen is the boat launch for the campground. I'm on the Michigan side right now with the drone. And you can see by just flying over the lake, there's just nothing for miles. There's absolutely no noise other than the road noise that you get if someone brings a boat down. The next nearest road is miles away, except for the campground road. Just for the purpose of scale, that is me down there in my kayak as I'm flying the drone over the lake. And while the lake isn't huge, when you're up in the air like this flying around, it sure makes you feel like you're awfully small down there when you're just sitting in a kayak. If you decide that you want to be adventurous and rough it out here and come up here and do some fishing on Moosehead or Little Presque Isle, it's definitely worth mentioning that the Little Presque Isle side of the water is pretty shallow and pretty weedy. I was using mostly surface lures because anytime that I had something that ran even super shallow, out in the middle of the lake even, I was just snagging up on weeds like crazy. There's a few deeper spots that seemed like they might have been 7 or so feet deep, but for the most part, the Little Presque Isle side is pretty shallow and weedy. Over on Moosehead Lake, the water gets pretty deep over in the middle of the lake. The shoreline, the edges, just like you would expect, they're pretty shallow and weedy throughout that area, but it definitely deepens up out in the middle. So you have an opportunity to maybe do some jigging or at least run some deeper lures out there.
So I think it's ready because it's rapidly boiling. Way more than I would normally do. Luckily, the thing that comes with this mug to keep it protected is also a pot holder. Tonight we are having spaghetti. This one is spaghetti with meat sauce, which I would prefer cheese, but I've never seen that option, so meat sauce it is.
Nighttime when you're camping alone is pretty boring, especially now because I'm the only one in the campground. The other couple that had their little trailer took off and left just after dark, so I decided to walk down here to the boat launch area. and I decided to do some fishing right from shore. And this is when I actually had the most action from the fish. I was down here casting this great big surface lure because it's too weedy to use anything else. And man, the fish were following it like crazy up to the side of the water and hitting at it. But I got a feeling they were smaller bass, northern pike, or maybe even some small muskie because nothing was actually able to swallow and get hooked up on this great big surface lure. My stay here at Moosehead Lake was definitely awesome and something I'll always remember. Absolutely recommend the lake to anyone looking to get away in a really remote area and be away from people for a while. It was definitely a great lake to test out my new kayak on, and I hope if you stay here, you have the same awesome experience.